Hey there everybody, how's it going? Nice to see you again. Thanks for tuning in. So back in December of 2024, last December, December 5th actually, I drove into Portland, Oregon, and I spent the evening hanging out with Michael Kenna. There were 50 other people there. It wasn't just me and Michael having a chinwag, but you get the idea. And it was his gallery show, you know, and that like had a profound effect on me. It really created an existential crisis, and I made a whole bunch of videos of why digital sucks and film is probably the way to go and such and blah, blah, blah. Now remember, back in the mid-1990s, I had gallery representation, and I have seen a lot of top master work in person. I've seen a lot of physical photographs made with film and printed by master printers. Ansel Adams, Galen Rowell, Christopher Burkett, Ray Carafano. I loved his work. It was great. And I loved everybody else's work too, don't get me wrong. But anyway, the point is, so I have been used to seeing real prints printed by master photographers, matted and or framed in person, hanging on a wall. I know what that's like. I know what that experience feels like. And I haven't had that experience up until, so that was the mid-1990s, and then I went and did other things. I went flying airplanes for a while, etc., and wedding photography and whatever. And then digital took over around the same time. And it's been, you know, at least 25 years since I had seen real photographs. And I'm not just talking about film, you know, darkroom prints. I'm talking about printed, physical printed photographs hanging on a wall being displayed. And so Michael Kenna's show had quite the profound effect on me. And it kind of started making me question, like, you know, yeah, I remember that power that the printed photograph has, the beauty, the exquisite beauty of the printed photograph hanging on a wall. And so, so I started examining that in all those videos I made. Is it digital? Is it film? You know, I went nuts comparing film and digital and printing in the darkroom and all the rest of it. Well, you know, that's kind of blown over, and I wasn't really sure what to make of all that, because I was more exploring the ideas than I was making any conclusions, although I tried to grasp at conclusions. But I had a very interesting experience actually last night and this morning, okay? And I think I got the wrong end of the stick. I don't think it's digital or it is digital to a certain extent is the problem. But I think the problem is how we consume our photographs now. There is a huge difference between looking at a photograph on a screen and looking at a printed photograph. And it doesn't matter if it's printed out of an inkjet printer or printed in the darkroom. And let me tell you what my experience was. So, and we're still working on this video. This weekend we drove up to Imnaha, Oregon, which is kind of out there. And but we stopped by Wallowa Lake, and while we stopped by Wallowa Lake to have lunch, a rainstorm came through, and I took my X-E5 with my 70-300 lens, okay, and I pointed it, well, I jumped out of the van and I pointed it at the lake, and I hit the button. And interestingly, right now the X-E5 is not a camera that is supported by DxO, so I'm limited to using uncorrected JPEGs. I mean, it's correct, you know, I can't process the RAWs, and so and the JPEGs don't have the DxO module yet, so they're kind of straight out of camera. I mean, it's straight out of camera JPEG as you can get. But be that as it may, one of the images that I took, I've been playing around a little bit with the Fuji settings, and so I was set to acros red filter with strong, large grain, and I was also set to +1 and -1 on the black and white tonality. Give it a little bit of that sepia warm tone, kind of, just a touch, okay? And I'm experimenting, right? Well, anyway, the composition turned out great. And I printed pretty much straight out of JPEG camera. I mean, straight out of JPEG. I printed the image, okay? And this is just taped to my board I used to spray the prints, because this print got sprayed with, this is Moab juniper paper, and it's sprayed with Moab Desert Varnish, which is their archival spray. And I'm going to dry mount this photograph, and I'm going to frame it. And this photograph, I could hang this photograph in right next to the Michael Kenna images in his show, and people would walk along and they'd go, "Wow, yeah, okay." I mean, in my opinion, okay, you might look at this and go, "What the hell?" I get that, but what I'm saying is I think this is worthy. Okay, that's what I'm saying. All right, and this photograph, and it was a quick, totally digital, printed and everything. But this photograph, for me, that's it. That's that Michael Kenna feeling of, and the large grain, strong grain and acros, and the little bit of, I did the post processing on this is like, it took 30 seconds. There was like, I used a gradient filter here and darkened this in a little bit. And I used a gradient filter here and I lightened the lake a little bit. That's it. Okay. But other than that, this is a straight out of camera JPEG. Okay. The grain is straight out of camera. The toning is straight out of camera. And yeah. So to me, when I look at this photograph, this is what I'm trying to do. This has that power that a real photograph, that in a good composition, and for me, you might look at this and go, what is that crap? I get that. So I'm not trying to brag here. I'm trying to explore a concept. Okay. So I was, to make a long story short, I was, as my British friend would say, I was really chuffed. All right, I got one, and I thought it was good conditions, and I wasn't sure if the strong grain and all that, but I've always had the raw, so I wasn't too worried about it. But yeah, strong grain, acros, the little bit of toning. I mean, I can get 95% of what I want in the camera, and so that's pretty much how I'm going to shoot my Michael Kenna style black and white images from now on, is do 90% of it in the camera. And even printing from the JPEG, okay, all right. So this morning I said, you know what, I'm gonna put that photograph up on my website because I like it so much. And I went up on the website and I uploaded it and put it up on the website, and I'm looking at the photograph going, wow, this photograph sucks. So looking on the screen, like I would never buy that photograph looking at it on the screen. But yet in person, like I'd put this up I'd put this on the opposite wall. If I had a show opposite Michael Kenna, I'd put this on the wall, and I think people would be like, yeah, okay. So maybe what's killing photography is the fact that we're not printing it anymore. We're consuming most of it on screens, because the images that look good on the screen aren't necessarily the best photographs printed, and vice versa. Because I've got other photographs that the Sony photographs with the super sharpness and the, on the screen, sure. But you start getting into misty, moody, adding grain, this needs to be printed to have the power. Maybe it's just this particular genre of photography. I don't know. But I do notice that the cameras are going up in resolution and not necessarily in tonality and other attributes. Fuji seems to be the only company that's kind of pursuing that. That's not just pursuing resolution. So, and that's why I'm drawn to Fuji's, is because for God's sake, I can get exactly what I want in a JPEG out of a Fuji. Well, 95% of the way there. I couldn't do that with the Sony. All right. So, do I have to do it with the Sony? No, because with the Sony, I can bring it into post-processing and add the grain and add the, you know, whatever. Or I could shoot film and it's there naturally, right? So maybe it's just this style of photography. I don't know. But my point is, you know, I've felt for a long time that the photography is losing its power because I'm consuming most of it on a screen. And I think that's what the Michael Kenna show did to me. It was like, wow, yeah, this is photography. This is the power. I went to that show and I was like, you know, these images resonate. They speak to me. Whereas when if you look at, if you look at Michael Kenna's work on a screen, it's not quite the same thing. You know, there's the power is gone. So I don't know. I'm exploring this topic. I'm not making any conclusions. I'm just throwing ideas out there to you know, if anything, I would say, if you want to take your photography to the next level, maybe get a printer, print your work, because I would argue you don't really know what your photography looks like unless you print it physically and hold it and look at it, and under different light. So, but I will tell you this, you know, this image in person has that je ne sais quoi, that nth degree, that feeling that we're looking for in our photography, that exquisite, ooh, that's luscious, and ooh, I really enjoy looking at that photograph. It's hard to describe, obviously. Whereas you put this on a screen and you're like, well, it's kind of out of focus. It's not very good. So what do you guys think? I mean, you know, in the comments, please. And, you know, these are complicated topics, right? And so you're gonna have to take the time to expose them or to flesh them out, let's say. And yeah, some people really freak out when I make videos like that. I waffle on and on. What do you, just get your camera and go shoot it. There's more to life, man. So, all right. Like, subscribe. But please subscribe if you found this in any way, shape, or form interesting, because subscribing is the best way to promote what you like, and it helps out a small channel, and my channel is small, needs all the help it can get. And how many times can you watch a photographer walk up a hill and walk down a hill? You know, I'd rather watch a video about a more in-depth topic kind of a thing. That's me. And if that's you, and you want to do something about it, hit that subscribe button. That's enough of that. We'll see you out there. Thanks for watching. And leave a comment. Love the comments. Love to hear what you have to say. So, okay.